Kevin, thank you for doing this. And I guess your LinkedIn says you are a stop motion animator video wizard, and
Yes.
your background, like you started in stop motion. We graduated from the same college. You started in stop motion. You were working for one of the biggest, well, the biggest stop motion animation studio in the world, one of the biggest studio in the world. And then you left and you did your own thing. You have like, if I'm not wrong, like 1.3 million followers on Instagram,
Yeah.
2 something million on TikTok, another like 1.3 million on YouTube. So what compelled you to leave one of the, like the dream job for a lot of people? I remember when I was in college, like all the kids wanted to work for Laika, all the stop motion people, and you
Yeah,
left.
I did things a bit backwards in that I went to go work on stop motion features almost immediately after I graduated. And then yeah, for about 6, 7 years, slowly got into the social media stuff. And then yeah, quit the feature animation to do the internet videos full time. um and I think, yeah, a lot of it had to do with just opportunity and life stuff. My wife and I, being both from Toronto, we were in the US for a handful of years and wanted to get back here to family. And that coincided with having grown enough of an audience online that I could make the full-time leap into the social media stuff without it being too risky. It was still risky, but I had enough of an audience where I could be like, okay, I could make a living off of
But
this.
was like building the audience intentional? Like you were like, okay, I'm gonna like do these on the side, build the audience, and eventually when I have enough following, I'm gonna leave and do my own thing? Or it was just like you were doing it because you like it, and then it happened
It was
that,
purely out of enjoying it. It was not a plan at all to grow an audience. Um, and that's probably why I've found success in it, because it's 100% just passion, just an outlet to make short creative videos. And I think that passion for doing it is what pushed me to keep making stuff and what grew the audience. So it was not a plan at all, completely accidental.
I was like was it like, well, I guess if it was it scary, and how did the people around you react to it? Because I know, like, for example, I don't know your family, but my family has like like a medical degree background. So animation was already like a weird
Yeah.
idea for them. And now I work in animation. I guess if I would tell them I'm gonna leave this job that I'm doing well with, and I'm gonna do my own thing, they would be like, kind of like,
Similar, yeah, and that's, I think anytime you tell your family you're gonna go work in animation, they're like, okay, like you've always kind of been good at art, but we'll see if this is a career. So I think by the time I had, they had gone through that, and then saw me go to work on, big movies in the US, I think I had already kind of proved that I could find a way in the field. So I think when I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to move back and do the social media stuff, they probably didn't understand it, but thought, okay, he's proven us wrong before.
and like,
um,
I guess like, did you when you did you did like brand deals? Like, did you do like shorts and Instagram posts for brands before you left Leica, or did
yeah,
that?
I had just started doing maybe one or two or three by the time I left Portland.
So you had
Just
like a
a
business model already in mind when you left. You were like, okay, I'm gonna leave, but this is how I'm gonna make a living.
kind of. I knew there was the possibility because I had done some brand stuff. And that was more of, back then it was more of they'd pay me to like post stuff on my page, more of that influencer kind of model. Um, Not so much the production company style that I have now. But it wasn't too reassuring at that point, because those first few deals were like, hey, here's $200 to do this video.
Oh wow.
And at that point I was like, okay, I'm doing it on the side, might as well get paid to do something. But yeah, it wasn't at a point where I was like, okay, I can make a living off this. And then when I moved back, it was a good like 3 or 4 months of just watching my email every day, being like, I hope someone emails me to offer me a job.
You were like waiting for brands to reach out, or did you also reach out to like brands?
No, it was purely just waiting for people to reach out to me. It's pretty tough to, in the social media space, to reach out to companies and say, hire me for this video. You kind of wait for the offers to come in.
Okay. It's so like it's still like that now, even if
yes, but at this point, I don't really have to like wait for stuff to come in. I think I've made enough of a footprint that a lot of companies are coming to me, and I'm typically having to pick which ones I'm going to work on.
Well, that's nice. And did you ever consider like having representation? I know like a lot of influencer at some point they look for representation and stuff. Do you still like think you're gonna keep doing it by yourself? Like just
I do have representation.
Okay.
So I have an agent through a company out in LA that I've had for maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years now. And
so now like when the brand comes to you, you redirect them to them?
Yeah, companies will email me and then I'll tag my agent in, and then basically we kind of chat on the side, and then he's the only communication until the contract is ready to sign, and then that's when I kind of jump in and get the creative stuff going.
Yeah, because I find that interesting, because I feel like a lot of these things are not, like I feel like people that start in animation or even like social media, they don't really like, nobody really show that side. Like for example, I remember like I was reached out by a manager for animation, and I was like, I don't know about this. And then I talked with some people that are like good friends that I knew them for a lot of years, and they're like, yeah, I have an agent, I have a manager. And I was like, I never knew, like we know each other for like 12 years and
yeah,
nobody ever mentioned that. It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how it would work. I don't have any experience in the studio animation world with an agent or a manager, just from the brand stuff.
Yeah.
But it's pretty crucial in terms of, negotiating rates, budgets. He keeps track of, I've worked with this company, and part of the contract is that I can only work with their company for 3 months in that toy space or something. So we have to then, there's windows where I can't cross over with other companies, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of legal stuff that he takes care of that.
And it gives you more time to create, I guess.
Yeah.
But
yeah, because there can be, 50 emails back and forth before it's ready to sign a contract.
And like, I think if I'm not wrong, like the first couple brand deals I saw on your Instagram, for example, they are just the video itself, like the eye candy visual effect magic thing, right? Yeah. And then I feel like later on you start doing like the making of video. So now like when you do like a brand, like a Lego thing, you do like the video and then you do like the making of. And I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, like a lot of those like video themselves are just like cool effect, cool visual things, right? There's not much storytelling for the most part. And I feel like a lot of the storytelling comes in the making of, showing the process. That's like the storytelling side of the video. Like,
yeah,
why did you add
that's
that
exactly
part?
it. Yeah, so I think that's just been an evolution of what people are expecting to see online. It's it's really shifted to lower effort cell phone videos. Like no one wants to see Super Bowl ads, showing up in their Instagram and TikTok feeds. So I'll often design campaigns like that where I'll make the ad, the shiny animation ad, and also work in a behind the scenes video as well. And the thinking behind that is the ad, it kind of shows what I can do, and then the brand they kind of get some back end stuff where they can push that video onto the platform and then, get the message out. And then, but those type of videos don't perform well with the algorithms and the apps. So TikTok won't really show it through my page. So I make the behind the scenes to then hook people in to the process of making the ad. And those typically perform, 10 times better than the actual ad themselves. So it's just been a way of yeah, just navigating what performs well, what people want to see. And I find the behind the scenes stuff does really well and people enjoy it.
Do you feel like there is space for storytelling in short formats like Instagram and TikTok? That's like one of the thing I always wonder is like, as an animator, a storyteller, like it feels like a lot of TikToks is just like short attention grabbing moments, but there's no like storytelling also, because it's really like I work for commercials too. And when you work on a 30-second, 15-second ads, it's really hard to put storytelling in such a short amount of time, right? Do you think, is there like a future for storytelling, or is it just going to be more and more eye ground things and just short attention span?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's taken me a while to kind of break that, you know, trained animator version of storytelling where, you know, a character's walking down the street and this is their personality, and then they run into this conflict. Versus I did a series of videos where I fall and turn into stuff. And to me, that's storytelling. That was me saying, how can I tell us like a visual story as quickly as possible? And for me, it was like frame one, I'm tipped over and about to fall on my face. There's the setup. And then, you know, the action is that I hit the ground. And then the ending is the surprise where I, instead of, you know, landing on my face, I turn into balloons or a banana or something. And that's done in like 3-4 seconds. So it is kind of more of that, you're just trying to stop people from scrolling and watch something cool. It is, we are losing a bit of that longer storytelling where you're pulling people into a moment or a character and, you know, walking them through something.
You know, like I was talking with a story artist, a friend of mine, that was doing like one of these interviews, and we were talking about the same thing. He said like maybe one solution would be to have like a TikTok account, which is just an account for a character, and so the story is through like all the posts, like every TikTok builds on the next one. So like if you keep watching it, people comes back to the same page because they want to know how the life of this character keeps going.
Yeah, and I've seen people already doing that with visual effects, where because visual effects are so time consuming, they'll do, you know, maybe 10-second clips at a time where, you know, they're kind of the character, and maybe they don't have so much of a personality, it's just experiencing a magical world or an environment. And yeah, each video is just, they kind of take the next step of the journey. And sometimes the audience plays a part in that. They'll run polls on stories and stuff saying what should happen next or suggest what could happen. And then they work on that and they keep going and going. And I think now platforms like YouTube have short content, and people are posting stuff like that on there now.
Well, I guess the thing with YouTube and short content, I feel like the way, if I am understanding like what the algorithm is doing now, is just like they're gonna use the short to like people who are on YouTube, they see a conversion from the short to the long form. Like people watch the short and goes to long form. The only issue I feel like with that kind of platform is that if they change the algorithm again, like if you do the whole strategy, you do like the shorts to build the long form, if they change the algorithm, all the effort is gone. But I guess like the thing with social media is adapting all the time, right? Because it's always changing.
And it's kind of always been like that if you think about it.
Yeah.
With movies 100 years ago, you know, why did we land on an hour and a half for a movie? And it was typically because, you know, a film reel could hold 10 to 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why a scene in a movie, you know, from like wake up to, you know, you have a little bit of conflict, a scene, and then you get a moment to breathe, and then the next scene happens. Those are typically about 12 to 15 minutes. And it's because they would fit on a single reel, and then the projectionist could like switch them over and change them. So they've been considering, you know, how to tell stories through media or format.
Yeah.
Even
more recently, like like when streaming came, when Netflix started, like I feel like the TV shows, the series changed the way they end an episode. Because now they have like this binging. They create this cliffhanger. Well, they had it before in TV shows, but you had to wait a week. But I feel like with Netflix, it became like exponentially more addictive the way they build the story. That's why like you watch like a ton of episodes one after. Yeah.
And nowadays, I oftentimes like series so much better because you can kind of linger in a character for so long versus, and then you go and watch a movie and, you know, they open it and within a minute they're trying to cram so much information on you.
and now like most movies feel like almost shallow because you feel like they're almost superficial the way they present the character because you get used to this different storytelling.
You start a movie nowadays and it's like a character on a phone explaining like, you know, I want to get the job. Like they're like,
and it's even worse in animation because like usually animated movie they tend to make them shorter, so they have even less time to introduce character. That's why you have like those like feels cheap kind of
you get the
position.
You get the this is me intro where it's
yeah that's me.
Yeah, that's it.
But so like when you graduated, you did your this film was a short film called Arctic Circle, and I love that short. And you know, it's a very simple storytelling. It's a simple story, but it's so effective, right? Until the end, like you have this building on expectation, kind of like not understanding right away, and then you know I have the kind of reveal at the end. Have you thought about going back to that kind of longer, still short film? Do you miss that kind of storytelling, or do you think this is what you do? Or like, for example, because you're in a production company, right? So I'm wondering, are you thinking about like getting the income, for example, from your brand deals and using it to do something else that you want to do, like some personal project, like finance your own thing?
Just knowing how much work goes into the short film. And I don't think I'd want to, you know, make a short and then do the whole film circuit, like the film festival circuit. That doesn't really appeal to me too much. I've always really been into kind of technical experiments. Like I really like trying new technical stuff. So the really short stuff suits that. And then I found I just really love advertising. I really, really like, you know, working with a brand and then here's the product, here's the messaging, what's a cool way to show. I've kind of realized I have very little interest in doing like expressing myself as an artist. And I know that's weird to say, but I really do like the kind of the ad side of things.
Well, you are expressing yourself just in a different, you know, like because I don't agree, you know, like when I start working on commercial, a lot of friends were like, oh, like why do you like working on commercials? It's like you're just doing this stuff for a brand and that's it. There's no storytelling. But I was like, I don't know. For me, like for example, what I still do like TV and I do feature and stuff. But when I get a commercial, I like the fact that I have like 3 days to storyboard the whole thing, and that's it. And then they come back with notes, and we have like a day to address them, and that's it. Like you don't have time. You don't have to spend like 4 years on a movie. It's just so quick. And if something is not amazing, it's okay because like in a week you're gonna be on the next commercial, and the next one maybe is gonna be amazing. You're like a great idea. So I like that kind of like a quick turnaround. I guess like
exactly.
You spend like a long time like one feature film like animating. They were like the same scene. I guess also does it happen in stop motion that you just scratch a scene that you animated? Does it happen ever?
I don't think they would scratch a whole scene. I mean, I've worked on a movie where they scrap the whole thing. But I think just to go to your point there, I think that's what pulled me into the social media stuff initially, was that I was animating on movies it was 2 years of animation for a movie versus spending a Saturday afternoon making a video, posting it the next day, and 5 million people interact with it.
I guess that's the other thing. You have like that direct feedback and access to the audience. compared to when you are just one of the many animators on a movie, but when you're like doing your things on Instagram, like you have this direct connection with them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Versus, yeah, a movie, it's kind of, yeah, you do your role on it and then they just put it out and then who knows what happens after that.
And going back like to your business model, because I'm kind of interested to that. You said you are pretty much just if I'm not wrong, I heard you say like you're just a guy in a basement with a lot of time
Yeah,
to.
that's pretty much it.
So like from the description, doesn't feel like a scalable business, right? Like,
Yeah, that's,
but like, have you ever thought about hiring people, or do you think that the scalability of your business is just the fact that the more brand want you, the more your time becomes valuable, the more you can charge, or you just don't think scalability is that important at this point? You're happy where you are at, and
yeah,
that's it.
you kind of got it exactly. The scalability of my business is just charging more per video, kind of just what I have to charge to clear my schedule for a certain job. And that's something I've toyed with a lot over the last handful of years. When I first got back to Toronto and was getting into this, I was on that path of, okay, I have to go bigger every video. And then eventually the goal is to like have a warehouse and 24 employees and people editing for me.
Like a
But
Mr. Beast kind of.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then I found that the more I pushed in that direction, the more I kind of lost focus on what I was doing. And when I consciously kind of decided to dial it back to just me in a room, like making something. And the more I leaned into that as a brand, the better my stuff would do, the more creative it would get. And that's kind of what I stick to today. Every video I make, there's no camera movement. It has to be just me and a tripod and a camera. That's the look of it. The time lapse and the behind the scenes is always just, it's only me making stuff. And I think, yeah, that's kind of just the brand that I've come up with. And I think people just appreciate, the artistry or the crazy amount of patience it would take to make something. Yeah, so I'm really just scaling kind of in the budget area of things, and not looking to hire people on. I've hired people here and there for kind of the brainless task, like, just
Cleaning up
masking out,
frames. Yeah.
masking out stuff for 200 frames, or like just something that I can pass off and not focus on.
And like, do you ever fear like getting tired of like, because I guess like there's a danger to be trapped in a genre in social media, right? Like, do you ever wonder if you're gonna get tired and get trapped, or is there anything you want to explore next? Like you're like, oh, I want to try something different, and that's the next thing I want to do.
Yeah, it is very much, it's working right now, but who knows what's going to happen in a year from now. I mean, we're seeing like, platforms evolve, like social media platforms could shut down. Who knows where the audience goes and how to play it that way.
Did you thought about diversifying? Well, I don't know how you like. I guess like you can do more making off. I don't know, but like, did you have ever thought of making a book about like how you do your tricks? Or
I've done a stop motion course, so I had that. But I don't. A lot of what I do is so niche that it's not.
Yeah, you wouldn't. Yeah,
like who's gonna buy? Like, there's probably like less than 100 people in the world who want to do like the magical videos that I make, or stop motion gets more niche and niche the more you get into character stuff. But yeah, as far as my content and the videos I make, I've kind of just tried to live in that world of like, the way I think of it is like, it's kind of that perfect medium between like Hollywood effects and handmade, like filming with your cell phone. So that's kind of where I try to live. And I think brands really like that right now, where the videos are professionally made, they're dealing with someone who can like handle contracts and pitch ideas and like handle a room full of executives. Like that kind of stuff, but also make videos that people like to see on the internet. So
Well, I
that's kind
saw.
of that's the sweet spot I found, and I try to encourage people all the time to find that spot of where to work.
But I saw like you also like directed a more live action commercial, even if you still have that kind of like a magic trick, visual trick. Is there something you want to do more? Is it?
Yeah, I directed. It was a couple holiday spots last year for Safeway,
Yeah.
and I think that one they really did pull me in on that. It was more of like a glorified visual effects supervisor, because they had very specific tricks they wanted to do, and I was probably one of the few people who knew how to approach it. Which I knew, like, yeah. So that one, very fun to direct and to but yeah, most of the day was just me like flipping plates and like objects, like puppeteering things, versus like, sitting in a chair watching them work. But yeah, I think I have tried to balance that commercial world a bit, and it's been a little sticky in that world it's still kind of stuck in the past a bit with the way it's approached and versus the online stuff that I do.
But I guess like you always work directly with brands. Like you never had like an agency come to you. Like you just go like it's directly
I've
you.
I've chatted with quite a few agencies, but it always comes down to like time and money. That commercial world is like, oh, do you want to
Yeah.
direct a commercial? Okay, you have to spend a month doing meetings, talking hours every day with the people writing in, like the shareholders deciding, like all that kind of stuff. And then you only get paid for like your day rate on the day you're shooting, versus the social media stuff. They're like, here's this money, do whatever you want for the next 2 weeks. Like, just
So
come back.
you get like a pretty much like complete freedom on your project for brands.
Yeah, pretty much. There's still like the pitching part of it. But yeah, like 90% of the time they're like, cool, that's an awesome idea. Just go with it and send us the video when it's done. Versus like the endless meetings of the commercial world.
And you also like work from home, right? Like in the basement.
Yeah, exactly.
And you had a kid, and I had a kid as well. So like I wonder, like how do you balance? Because I know like a lot of these stop motion visual tricks, if we can call that, take a long time to produce, right? And it's a very tedious job. So like how do you balance all these? And I know also like freelance can be it's easy to get too much work in some periods and not enough in others. How do you balance that with family and kids? And
Yeah, I've always been pretty good at working. Like I just work 9 to 5 and that's it. I never work at night or, I never put myself in a position where I'm grinding like long days to get something done. And that's the kind of a benefit of the social media stuff. If my schedule is running over, I'll just tell the company it's taking longer than I thought. And they're just like, okay, take
which
your
is the
time.
truth.
Yeah. And yeah, I think I've done a lot more stop motion this year. And I think that's because it is easier to handle with a toddler running around. I can jump upstairs at any time to, help my wife out or spend time. Versus the live action visual effects, just because those are really hard to film with a toddler running in the house. And even doing it, like it's hard to record sound. I can't set up anywhere in the house with lights or cameras anymore. So kind of just stuck in the basement now making the stop motion stuff.
And then like if like thinking about your career now and the career back in in animation industry, like how do you I guess you stay self-motivated to like produce content, especially I guess at the beginning when you move from Laika to your own schedule, compared to like when you work in a studio where people tell you like this is the deadline, and like you go to work and you have other people managing your time. You just have
Yeah.
to get it done. Like how do you what was the difference for you, and how was the transition?
I think I've always been pretty good at managing my time and staying motivated. It probably just comes down to just loving what I do. Yeah, most days in the week, I just get up at 5 a.m. Just I'm so excited to like get to work and and to do stuff. Like, yeah, when I go to bed at night, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get up and keep working on that project.
Was
So
it the same? Was it the same when you were working for a studio, or is it like?
I think so. Yeah, I don't know if you get this, but like, yeah, like if something was on a Friday was kind of like not quite right and you had to sit with it for the weekend, like you spend the whole week. Do you ever spend the whole weekend just stewing on something and being like, I gotta get back Monday and
Well,
like
I guess
fix
like
that? Or
most of my career have been like freelancing. So like pretty much like I just I don't know, like late at night I do go back and fix it on the weekend if really bothers me.
yeah.
Um and so like going back to we go back in time at this point. Like how did you get to Laika?
So I got there.
Because like
We have to go back even further
because
with.
I also like I saw you work on you were an animator on Just in Time. Was that right? Like
Yeah,
like
so I graduated in 2010, made the stop motion film Arctic Circle, and the studio guru here in Toronto hired me as an animator right out of school.
did you have a generic animation portfolio? Or was it like mainly stop motion?
They only saw my film,
Okay.
and they were like, okay, this guy can animate in stop motion, so he understands animation, so jumping to CG shouldn't be that tough.
Did you know CG?
I had done one walk cycle. That was it. So yeah, my first week at that job was just spent Googling like, okay, how do I set a keyframe in Maya? Like, how do I do anything?
I had a similar experience on my first job for a Toronto studio. They used Storyboard Pro and Maya, and I didn't know neither of them. Like I kind of like touched them in school, but and they were like, you know how to use Storyboard Pro and Maya? I'm like,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
Like go ahead.
They're not. Yeah, they're not hiring you to know how to like press the right shortcut. You can look that stuff up. So I worked at Guru on Just in Time for maybe like 8 or 10 months or something, and then while I was there, there was an ad posted on Cartoon Brew, the website, and it was for the Shadow King, Henry Selick's movie out in San Francisco, and then Disney was behind it. So it was like Disney funding his stop motion movie, and the job posting was for a storyboard position. And I saw it, and I was like, well, I obviously need to try to work on this movie, but this ad isn't for me. So I just emailed the email on the storyboard listing and sent them my movie. And I was like, here's my short film. I want to work on the movie out in San Francisco. And like with it, like that afternoon, they put me in touch with the animation director. And we were talking, and he was like, yeah, you'd be a great animation assistant on our movie. And it was like only a few days from when I reached out to like we got the ball rolling on bringing me over there. So I kind of just like, like kicked my foot through the door.
Well, that's the way to do it. I mean,
yeah, I was like, this is no rules. I'm just gonna find my way there. So yeah, so they got me out there
with like I guess like you got like a T1 T.
Yeah,
like,
I did the T1 and
T1
got all
visa.
that and moved out there, and then barely a year later, Disney shut the movie down. And yeah, there was just one day, this movie's done, everyone's gone. You have like 2 months of severance to like get out of the country if you're from Canada or from wherever. And it was like right around that time where Laika was gearing up for Box Trolls. They had wrapped, Paranorman had come out. And they were gearing up for Box Trolls, and the animation director just like reached out to everyone who got fired, pretty much, and just said like, what are your plans after you leave? And they just offered me a position from there. So I kind of just went from assistant in San Francisco to Laika pretty quickly within a few months.
And like, what did you? What was your final like title, like the final credit in the last movie? Do you went like a senior animator, or what was the?
Just I went from just assistant to animator.
Okay. And like, because you stayed in the same company for so long, were you able to like negotiate your salary year over year, or was there like a system within Laika, for example?
Yeah, it was mostly, I think it was like per film.
So like you had like a new contract each film?
Yeah. Although I think for the last one, it might have been, I think most people signed on, they went to like a full-time system by that point. Yeah, because I was assistant on Box Trolls and then jumped to an animator on Kubo. And I think, yeah, negotiate a bit higher. And then we might have went to full-time on Kubo. And then I think it was just negotiating for the next movie, and probably, yeah, just a little bit higher from there.
And do you think like if someone in school wanted to do like what you do now, do you think they have to go through like the whole like studio system? Because I guess like the working on Laika gave you more credit toward brands, or do you think that having a big audience enough was the only thing that mattered to them?
It's, yeah, it's tough because I remember being in school and, you know, animators who like had graduated from Sheridan and went to work at Pixar, they would come give talks or something, right, at the school. And of course you're like, oh, just tell me, how did you get from here to there? Just give me that information so I can replicate it and get to where you are. And of course it's impossible. There's so many variables and there's like so many interests and passions and life experience that play into where someone ends up. So I have no idea how someone would get to where I am, like doing the social media stuff. Although I think, being older in the sense that I didn't even touch social media until I was like, in my late 20s, nearing 30, and having studio experience, it's been pretty valuable to the brand stuff. Because yeah, as I mentioned, so many times I've been on a call with company executives, or I have to pitch, a dozen concepts and run, like do the old storyboard pitch. And having the confidence to do that kind of stuff is huge, because a lot of the people these brands have to work with are teenagers who have no concept of, professionalism or or any business sense at all. They're constantly dealing with problems of like, these popular teenagers just not knowing how to handle brand deals or making ads. So I think, my studio experience definitely plays a huge role. Now, I don't know if I would have been able to do this right out of school.
And like, just because like we were back talking a bit of the social media part, like how much time do you spend on research, like, like hashtags, or like what kind of image you want to make, like how, or like, I don't know, studying how many seconds you need to grab someone's attention, stuff like that. Like how much of that, of your time spent on that kind of stuff?
I've kind of stopped caring about any of that, honestly.
Do you think it matters when you start, or do you think it's
maybe at some point? I don't know if it still matters now. Like I know at least on TikTok, their whole algorithm is they show your video to like 100 people, and if a majority watch the whole video, then they'll show it to 1,000 people. If a majority watch that, then they'll show it to, it's like grows and grows. So it really comes down to if people are going to watch your video or not. And unfortunately, that means, you could make the most professional thing in the world and a lot of people will scroll past it. But if you just like have you badly green screened on something and you start talking, most people are just going to be like, okay, I'll just hear this person out for a minute and see what happens, see where this goes. So it's not a good thing, but well,
I guess it's democratized the whole thing. But yeah.
So I don't quite study stuff or look at. I've just kind of
even like a
do my own
hashtag for
thing.
Instagram and stuff. I guess
I
like
haven't
now
hashtag anything
you have
in like
you have an audience big enough that doesn't even matter. Because I saw like even like what's the Casey Neistat, the YouTube guy.
yeah.
Like you hear all the thing about what to do for a good YouTube video, and it's like a certain title, a certain description. He puts like an image. It is against every rule, and it just put like a letter in the title, and there's no reason why someone would click it, but he has like such a huge audience, it doesn't matter really. Like
Yeah, I'm not good at the longer form stuff where all that kind of stuff matters. I just focus really on the short form, like grab your attention. I do a lot of visual storytelling concepts go into it. So especially with my behind the scenes videos, I'll and those are the ones where I do voiceover and explain how I do something and I just show it. And those ones always start with I write a script like on a document, get it all down like exactly how I want to say it. And then I work through every line. I'm like, how do I best visually show this so that someone could follow the video without hearing my voice? So a lot of that comes from the animation background of how do you show and not tell kind of a thing. And a lot of that comes down to like, I'm talking about like, I cut out this object and put it on here. Like I'll often like, you show it getting cut out and then physically being put on a layer. Like I don't go in any of the technical stuff. I try to like dumb it down completely.
Accessible. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like all of your ideas, like I guess like you have like a ton of ideas. Do you keep like a notebook of ideas, or do you just like sit down and be like, okay, I'm going to do a video. What should I do? And you just come up with the idea and you develop it right then, or do you
it's more of a notebook kind of a thing. Yeah, I'll just come up with random ideas here and there, and just kind of keep them in my head. But like this whole last year, I think I've made like 2 or 3 of my own videos, and the rest have all been advertisements for companies.
And I guess to wrap it up, as we went backwards in time, like how did you started having an interest in animation? Like did you knew since where you were a kid, or was something that came later? Like how did you end up like in college in the animation and all that path?
I'm trying to remember.
Did you draw as a kid? Did you do stop motion or?
I think as a kid, I was fascinated with practical movie effects, like how they used to like blow up miniatures, and loved monster makeup and all the prosthetic stuff. And I think that got into, I remember going to Disney World as a really young kid and getting like a book that explained like, cell animation, like how it's layered and photographed. And I think I was just always obsessed with the behind the scenes stuff, like how
I love those. Like, I don't know if you had that. Like, I remember like watching like all the DVDs. There was like a period where Disney were releasing these DVDs with all the behind the scene of how they were making, like from Snow White to like all the more recent. That was like a big part for me. But
yeah. So I think that stuff always seemed like magic to me, that you could take these drawings and make these movies, or put this makeup on and create this creature. So I think I was always obsessed with that. And then I think it was the release of all the really good Pixar films during the 2000s that got me fired up to get into animation.
Did you ever wanted to do something else? You want to go to
engineer? I did. Yeah, it was architecture was the alternate. And for college, I applied to like all architecture, and only, I think Sheridan was the only animation option. And got into all the schools, and Sheridan they turned me down the first time I applied.
So did you go into architecture for 1 year, or?
No, I still went to Sheridan, but I did a general year.
The art fundamentals thing?
Yeah. And then, because I think I was just so stubborn about it. I was like, I got to do it. I got to get in. Like they're the one person that turned me down. I got to do it. And I was lucky. I don't think they ever did. The 1 year I went to Art Fundamentals at Sheridan, they had two. They had Art Fundamentals Animation and Art Fundamentals Illustration, where you spent the whole year only working on your portfolio. And I think they only did it for that 1 year and then went back to like the general format. So I got in the 1 year where they like let me just work on the portfolio the whole time.
Yeah, which will be a good idea, because I felt like when I was there, like applying from Italy, I never went to Art Fundamentals. I went straight into Sheridan, and then I found out about the Art Fundamentals, and I was like, this is like such a weird class, because like they were doing like all these like weird stuff that didn't really matter at all toward animation.
Yeah,
We're doing like this live drawing, like a 60 like an 1 hour long live drawing, and I'm like, you'll never use it. Like it's cool, like I guess every skill is useful eventually, like you never know, but it's not really like.
So I was very lucky.
Yeah,
because even the second time I barely made it into the program. But yeah, every class was like, life drawing, character design, background painting, versus the general year where, people are like, express yourself with throwing paint on a canvas and that kind of like, which is fine, but I didn't want to do any of that.
I remember like they were building a sculpture with the cardboard, which was super cool. Like I saw some amazing stuff, but I was like, I'm not really sure. Like,
yeah, that would have been a waste of my time.
Develops your artistic imagination, but not really helping you to get into animation. All right. Well, thanks for your time, Kevin. Any last word you want to share? Any upcoming thing we should look for?
Just working on more Lego right now. That's
all right.
That's my next few weeks. Nothing really to promote. Just keep an eye out. Right. Keep making cool stuff.
All right, we'll keep watching. I'll keep watching. Thanks so much for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.